I'm going to cut out this little panel here from the Cute as a Bug designer series paper. I have a piece of cardstock that measures 5.5 inches by 6.25 inches, and I'm scoring each end at 1 inch. Then I'm flipping the cardstock over and scoring again at 1/2 inch. So I have 2 score lines on each side. Then I'm going to take some nesting arches, and I'm going to cut a larger arch in the green, mossy meadow, and a smaller arch in the Blackberry Bliss. I am then going to, the Blackberry Bliss is actually 5.5 by 4.25, just slightly smaller, and I'm going to glue that on the inside of the meadow moss. It is going to make my pop-up window stronger and also add some visual interest. Then I'm going to score on the score marks, scoring the inch ones score lines back and the 1/2 inch score lines forward. And then I am going to make sure it fits onto my card base. My card base is a 5.5 by 4.25 inch top fold card. I'm going to glue that panel that I cut from the Cute as a Bug DSP onto my card base. I'm just here kind of making sure that it's lined up and showing through the arch properly. So I'm going to then place the cardstock, the card base, into there to attach it to the card base. Then I'm going to put wet glue onto the accordion folds that I created. You are going to have to make sure that it sticks. You could use score tape, paper tape, but I like liquid glue because it's a really strong hold, and it also gives me some wiggle room when I'm lining everything up. So I'll place them in, make sure that my accordion folds match the base of the card and don't hang over, and then kind of hold it for a second, make sure nothing moves or wiggles, and you can see my front window pops up just a little bit. Then I'm going to use the dies from the Cute as a Bug set, and I'm going to cut out some of the images from the Sweet Bug set, and cut out some of the images from the Cute as a Bug set. But this little ladybug holding a flower doesn't have a die to match, so I'm fussy cutting this one. So I'm using the Cute as a Bug die set, and I'm using the Sweet Bugs die set, oh my goodness, and the Cute as a Bug designer series paper. And then here you see me just kind of figuring out where I want to put my different bugs. I did actually cut out some extra shapes from all the bugs and in just white cardstock, and I layered them to make my images a little dimensional if they're going to be glued to the back, and also a little sturdier if they're going to be glued to the front of the window, so they're not so flimsy. That's what I'm doing here. You can see I've got many layers cut out in just white cardstock. Usually I do 2 white layers, and then I glue the actual image onto the top. So if I'm gluing it onto a flat surface, it gives it dimension without using foam tape, which makes it sturdier for putting in the post. And for the images that I'm going to put on the front of my window, it just makes them a little stronger. So trying to figure out where I'm going to put what. Not sure which images I was going to use. I cut out a lot of them. Decided not to use the watering can in the end because it looked like he was watering the ladybug who was reading, and that would probably annoy her. So I just decided to do the bee on his own. I didn't cut out the flower image. I could have had him holding a flower, putting some of the ants in the bottom. Sorry, it's cut off a little bit. And then the extra pieces that I'm not using, I keep in a little Ziploc baggie. Oops. And I store them with my stamps and my dies, which you can't see me doing because I'm not really great at filming yet, but I'm working on it. So those extra images get stored in the pocket with my stamps and my dies. So next time I'm working, I have them. This is from the Perfectly Paired die set because I figured I needed a little greenery up at the top. I felt like my arch was missing something. These are the flowers from the Perfectly Paired die set. So I cut those out in Old Olive. Figured they could hang from the top. I'm just kind of giving them a little haircut because they're too big and I just want small pieces of greenery up there. So I'm going to glue them. I didn't do multiple layers of this, which I probably should have, but oh well, never mind. So I glued them on how I liked them. I die cut some of the flower images in white and I kind of just placed them around as well, just to kind of frame it out a bit more. I decided not to go with the ants, as you could see at the bottom. I felt there was a bit too much there and they were blocking that ladybug who was holding the flower. But I have a lot of extra images for when I next use this Sweet Bugs die set, stamp set. So I'm gluing down my different leaves. I'll trim off the bits that are hanging off later. And then I am going to take some of the white flowers and add them as well. I use my pick a tool, is that what it's called? To pick them up with a little putty and put some glue on. Take a pick tool, there you go. I'm not great with names. And you can see I add a little bit of glue on the bottom. Sometimes I use reverse tweezers for this as well. I'm really gonna have to work on my filming, but you get the idea. So there you go. It's hard for me to see. I just do this on my phone, so it's hard for me to see what's filming and pay attention to what I'm actually doing at the same time. I'm not really a very techie person. If anybody has any suggestions, that would be great. I don't want to invest a lot of money into anything for recording because this is just a hobby. I'm trying to figure out where to put this last one. Not really sure. Okay, and that one didn't stay, but that's okay. There we go. He really doesn't want to stick. Now I'm using my reverse tweezers, putting a little bit more glue on it to make it stick. I don't want too much because I don't want it oozing out the sides and getting everywhere. There you go. And then I'm trimming off those little bits that hang over the edge. Decided I probably needed a few more leaves. Wanted something in the middle there. So I'm giving the second twig another little trim using my reverse tweezers. Of course, you can't see any of this because, like I said, terrible at the filming part. And putting that right over there, and I'll trim that little extra branchy bit off at the end. You can see how that window is popping up, but pushes down flat and fits into a regular envelope. Still thinking maybe I should put one ant there, which I ended up doing because I felt like I needed something in that bottom corner. So one of the ants made the cut. The other ones, they're being saved for another day. I really like the caterpillar holding the leaf. I like him in the purple. So then I'm using an acrylic block just to push everything down, and I have this Victorian iron that has been in my family for generations that I put on top as a weight just to make sure everything attaches. Then when I'm cleaning up, you see I just pointed to that 22. That tells me there are 22 dies in this die set, and I always count my dies back in at the end because it is so easy to lose them, especially the little ones. So I want to make sure whenever I'm putting my dies away, I count them all to make sure every single one is there. I store my dies in, with this new packaging, I store my dies in the same package as the coordinating stamps. So they come in two separate packages because you can buy them separately. But I usually take the dies out and just store them in the same envelope with the stamps. And then any extra images I put in there. And here you can see how it pops up, but folds flat. And then my top folding card base, and there you go. He looks kind of cute. Thanks.